Hello everyone, and welcome finally to part 2. I thought it was the Evading Babylon series, but maybe that's book 1. So part 2 is Times of Turmoil, and this is of course by Chad Daybell. Now, I want you to understand that doing this book review actually almost killed me. No, I'm not exaggerating. This book is so bad. There were times I couldn't take anymore. I had to take a break. The writing and everything else, I just couldn't do it. Let's just jump right in, shall we? As the book opens, Nathan and Marie have miraculously reunited in Chicago. Nathan's father, Garrett, and his stepmother, Vanessa, seemingly have disappeared. In Southern California, remember that whole thing? They were helping the aunt move. We didn't even know they had an aunt. They're helping them aunt move. California disappeared. What's going on? So, Marie's parents are in Utah, watching over Nathan's half-sister, Denise. Aaron Shaw continues to work at the National Security Agency's Utah Data Center. The nation is economically shattered, and while the Black Flu epidemic has temporarily waned, millions of Americans have died. Hurricane Barton swept through the southern United States, and thousands of people are homeless. Meanwhile, the officers from the Chip Compliance Authority are becoming increasingly brazen in cracking down harshly on people who are not chipped. And those who don't have one have been labeled as fugitives from justice. I don't know how that makes any sense, but we'll go with it. They're fugitives from justice. Hopefully they get to go before Judge Judy, because I just think that would make good ratings. So pockets of civil unrest are popping up in larger cities, including Chicago. So it goes. Nathan has barricaded himself into the Smith Museum of Stained Glass with Marie. Nathan is awake and about to get Marie up as well. They are planning to leave the museum at daybreak. They are both hungry. Marie suggests that they go back to her apartment because she has a stash of pork and beans under her bed, because this is her comfort food. Marie's giving me a complex. You know what my comfort food is? Frosting. Yep, I'm just going to throw that out there. Go to hell, Marie. So anyway, they make it back to Marie's building and find the cans of pork and beans. And Marie opens a can and starts eating. And Nathan asks Marie to share the can with him. Marie basically tells him that she's not his mama, nor is she his maid, and that he has 2 functioning hands that God gave him, so he can open a can himself. Nathan eventually does, and he eats and quickly goes into the bathroom to wash the beans out of his beard. That's gross. I mean, I know they're in the middle of a crisis and everything, but how big is this beard we're talking? I'm not going to lie. When someone has something like beans stuck in their beard, there's no running water. So being the resourceful lad that he is, he removes the lid from the tank on the back of the toilet to fill some containers up before they head out. Then Marie gets emotional and apologizes to Nathan, saying it's her fault they are trapped in Chicago and that she didn't believe the doomsday scenario. I mean, they've only been giving the doomsday scenario since time immemorial, so I'm kind of on Marie's side on this one. I've read Revelations many times. It's just vague enough, so you just don't quite know when it's coming. But anyway, she feels bad about not believing in the doomsday scenario. So does Nathan tell her that he understands and that it's not her fault? Hells to the no! He tells her not to beat herself up about it because really, she should be able to feel the constant disapproval just wafting off of him. And really, isn't that punishment enough? Marie tells Nathan her priorities have straightened out, and he tells her no more hugging and kissing because he has been set apart as a missionary again. Or, he could have told her that when they reunited, but hey, why miss an opportunity to make your girlfriend feel like a Jezebel? I think that's somewhere in the guide to codependent relationships, but I'll have to double check that out. Speaking of making your girlfriend feel like a floozy, is there some men's guide in circulation that discusses this? I'm asking because I don't know how many ridiculous conversations I have had where someone asks me what I'm getting all whored up for. And my response is usually work, because all the best whores wear deodorant to work. But I digress. We now find out that Nathan's father, Garrett, is still alive. WTF? He is in the parking lot of the Huntington Memorial Hospital surrounded by hundreds of dead bodies. This is a shame because all those family members are probably going to receive some hefty fines from the towing company for unauthorizedly parking their dead relatives there. And towing companies ain't cheap. I think I had my car towed one time for $400. I don't even know how much they charge for a body, so my heart goes out to them. Garrett looks through the bodies but still can't find Vanessa. He does find a used Gatorade though, so it looks as if God is still watching out for him after all. A man passing by on his bicycle tells Garrett that the hospital was abandoned, that under no circumstances should he go downtown, but that people were living by the ocean and he could go there. Garrett is still weak, but figures he can at least fish by the ocean, so he decides to head west. Marie's father, Aaron Shaw, still works for the data center. He was given permission to check on Marie here and there after she got shipped. Mr. Shaw notices that Marie's location is no longer at the museum, and so he knows she must be with Nathan. Then Mr. Shaw loses his damn mind and calls his wife from work. Really, Mr. Shaw? In the last book, you were talking about how your house was probably bugged, but now you just nonchalantly call home, tell your wife she's okay, and then hang up. Worst double agent ever. After that, Mr. Shaw goes back to work. Part of his job is to sort out the people who actually died from people who just removed their chips and update their information in the system. If they are alive, the word awake shows next to their name, and if they have removed their chip, they are labeled a fugitive, and if they are dead, I don't know why we can't use the word dead, but apparently if they're dead, they're asleep in the system. Makes me wonder if they have some sort of plan involving aliens, the Matrix, using their bodies for batteries. I don't know. I don't understand why we can't say dead. So being nosy, Mr. Shaw comes across Vanessa's name and sees that she is asleep, but that Denise, her daughter, is awake. And he also found that Garrett is also awake and apparently located in Pasadena outside the hospital. And now I'm going to say this again. Yep, you're going to hear it again. Having the Catholic Vanessa die is a cop-out. I wanted there to be a Mormonism versus Catholicism showdown with a sudden death round. The author bringing her up just to confirm she is dead just makes me angry, and continuing to wonder why the author, Chad Daybell, is so intimidated by Catholicism. Can he not defend his particular faith? Can his doctrine not withstand a bit of scrutiny? This could have been a plug for his religious beliefs, and he just takes the easy stepmom is dead way out. Like, if you're writing these series and someone was happening to give them to their friend, this could be a great motivational opportunity for, hey, come join Mormonism. And nope, zoom, just flies right by. So after Marie and Nathan finished their pork and beans, which reminds me of a song when I was a camp counselor. I got beans on my plate and I don't need no steak. Sardines, yeah, and pork and beans, yeah. Sardines, yeah, and pork and beans, Yeah, okay, I'll stop now. And they are taking a nap. And no, you perverts. Marie is napping in her room and Nathan falls asleep on the couch because they're good Mormon kids. Anyway, some CHIP compliance officer just kicks in the apartment door to check on Marie's status. Apparently, no one remembers how to knock anymore in the future, so I don't know what that's about. And it's a shame because the compliance officer is shocked. Shocked, I tell you, that Nathan is pointing a gun at him after he smashes his way through the door. Like, I get it. Marie had her chip thing in. They knew that she was in there. Knock, knock, knock. Who kicks the door in and then is surprised when the owner of the apartment, house, trailer meets him with a gun? Like, are you serious right now? So the officer explains they are rounding up people so they can see what kind of resources they have and divide up supplies. He then tells them he will have to confiscate Marie's case of pork and beans. And Marie basically looks at the officer and says, "Suck it. You are not taking my pork and beans." And the officer tells them that Brooks's men will be able to track them and they won't be able to get away with those pork and beans. And who is Brooks? He started out as a small-time gang leader, but now he's powerful because he kills first and asks questions later. Brick must have read Real Ultimate Power, the official ninja book, because that's the only thing I can think of. Shooting first and asking questions later is pretty dumb. I mean, unless you're taking an ankle shot, unless you're shooting them in the kneecap. I don't understand this shoot first, ask questions later. That I don't know what they're teaching in gang school nowadays. That's dumb. So Marie decides that she should cut the chip out of her hand. Nathan can't resist kissing her on the forehead. Set apart as a missionary. Who? What? He just gave her the rundown. I'm a missionary man again. Get your Jezebel ways away from me. I got to stay pure. And he kisses her. They decide to hang out on the second floor in case the compliance officer called for backup and is waiting for them outside. And don't you worry, they take the pork and beans with them. Oh, and I forgot to say, Nathan used his gun, tied up the officer. The officer was like, "Brooks is gonna get you for this." Nobody really cared. We never hear from these people again, and it doesn't matter. So she puts the pork and beans in a suitcase, and on the second floor, they find a wheelchair, and Marie cleverly makes a sign that says, "Black flu victim, please help me." Some blankets, hats are scrounged up, and that completes the disguise. Nathan and Marie head to Nauvoo because it seemed like the only place they would find safety. Or here's an idea. You drove into Chicago with a car. Why don't you go get the car and load the beans in it and drive away? But that's too logical, so they don't do that. So meanwhile, Garrett Foster is making his way to Santa Monica by following road signs to Highway 10. When he gets to the Santa Monica city limits, he sees a barrier across the freeway. He tells the guards on duty that he walked from Pasadena and they ask him if he can fish. Sergeant Casey said he could use more men on the pier, which is such a lucky break for Garrett because he spent a year in Iraq with Sergeant Casey. All the luck. So, what did they do in Iraq? I don't know. They did Iraq things. That's a different book. That's not in this book. So, the guards tell him to walk to Ralph's and ask for Sergeant Casey. And as he's walking to the store, he can't help but notice that people aren't wearing many clothes. It's California. Chill out. That's what he's thinking about. Really? Not getting some food. Not trying to rebuild society. Nope. Just, wow, this is a city full of hoe bags. What's going on here? That doesn't even make any sense to me. Even finding clean water to drink should be number one. But nope. As long as he's able to breathe in and out, he is able to cast judgment on these kind strangers of Hobagtopia. So Garrett makes it to Ralph, asks for Sergeant Casey, and tells the woman to say, "Garrett the Ferret Foster is here." Sergeant Casey comes out and is happy to see his old army buddy. Sergeant Casey says to the people around him, "Don't worry. If you can't trust Ferret Foster, you can't trust anyone." What? So let's examine some of the attributes of a ferret. Let's see. Ferrets burrow, dig, and they chew on absolutely everything. They also steal objects and hoard them. So does Garrett Foster have a psychological issue that caused excessive hoarding? Or did the author choose the nickname Ferret because it rhymes with Garrett? I'll let you decide. Garrett asks Sergeant Casey if he thinks he can make it to Utah, but Sergeant Casey says not right now because Vegas is out of control. Vegas is always out of control. Come on now, put your big boy pants on. I mean, what does that even mean? Are showgirls marauding through the streets in gangs like a sequin version of Mad Max and the Thunderdome? Garrett just accepts this and says he will stay and catch fish. We then return to Aaron Shaw, who is contemplating his life as a double agent. Aaron had even been part of the marketing campaign that came up with this slogan: "Parents, do you know where your kids are? Get the chip and you always will." No. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, Sasquatch. No. That is not striking or memorable. Give me literally 1 second and I'm going to come up with a slogan. How about, "Parents, do you know where your kids are? Have them chipped so they'll never be far." I mean, he didn't have anyone he can ask about this. He's never read a poem. He can't do rhyming. I don't work in marketing, but that was one of the most horrible slogans I've ever read. And it doesn't even make any, I mean, it makes sense, but it doesn't. You have to have something that people remember. So when they're thinking about it later, they're like, "Oh yeah, do you know where your kids are? Get the chip. They'll never be far. Oh yeah, I got to call that chip place. The Marketing 101. Come on, dude." And then have a commercial showing a mother tracking her kid with her phone. I mean, my God, did he take writing lessons from Stephanie Meyer? What's going on here? Aaron Shaw has been sending coded messages written with invisible ink on the back of recipes sent by snail mail to his contact, Elder Benjamin of the church's first quorum of the 70. But at no point does he take a deeper look at what he has done as a double agent. In the first book, I got the feeling that he was more of an IT guy. So did he really have to participate in the marketing campaign? And let's take that deeper. Isn't he then complicit in getting people chipped? Now, I love Kurt Vonnegut, and he did a masterful story about an American spy in World War II. His cover, the spy's cover, was that of a Nazi propagandist on the radio. It's been a long time since I read the book, and someone borrowed my copy and never returned it, of course. I want to say he was born in Germany, raised in America, and then went back to Germany to kind of, familial roots and all that. So the way that he was a spy was while he was on the radio, he was giving information and intelligence to the Allied troops. However, after the war, not only was he a wanted man for war crimes, but Germans he met after the war who had been in the Hitler Party told the spy character that his words inspired them. In fact, they were the Nazis they came to be because of him. Can you even imagine that? So I really feel like we could have had so much opportunity with Aaron Shaw here, and we blew it. All I get from Aaron in this book is that he detests his job, but it's the only way to keep church leaders informed on what is going on. And I'm actually okay with that. What I'm not okay with him is making propaganda, making commercials. Dude, you work in IT. Your commercials suck anyway. Stop making commercials, because then you're actually pulling more people into getting the chip, and then you are in some ways culpable. So despite knowing his keystrokes are being monitored, he keeps checking on Marie because Marie cut her chip out, so her status in the system is now that of a fugitive. So he goes home soon after that, and his wife is watching the news, and basically Chicago is on fire. The news then blames it on the Christians. I mean, let's be real. Chicago is on fire all the time. We just gotta jazz it up a bit. It's the Christians this week, it's the aliens next week, and I mean aliens from outer space. Next week, it's going to be people who only have purple hair. I mean, Chicago's on fire so often, they've just run out of reasons. But come on, let's kind of jazz it up a bit. Like, you know, Chicago's on fire today because the Rockettes came to town. I don't know. Just give me something. Despite Aaron's suspicions that his house is bugged, he tells his wife about Marie and that she's probably safe with Nathan. And he's whispering because apparently enhanced sound technology can't pick up whispered conversations. Why is Mr. Shaw a double agent again? I'm surprised all the Mormons aren't in jail because of him. Seriously, just all of them in jail because he makes decisions like this and they make no sense. So Nathan and Marie have made it on foot about 30 miles south of Chicago. They find a golf course but can't get into the clubhouse, so they decide to sleep in the trees. They are awakened by two men holding a chip scanner. Someone saw them trying to break into the clubhouse, so they came to investigate. They notice the bandage on Marie's hand and tell her that it looks suspicious. The men seem more angry when they realize Nathan isn't chipped at all. They are then asked to get the chip or be put to death. This kind of reminds me of something. Baby V for Vendetta? When Evie is told to confess or be shot out behind the dumpsters? Just saying, little coincidence there. Because the same thing happens here. When Nathan and Marie choose death, one of the men pulls a small metal cross out of his pocket, basically says, "Just kidding," and that Christians have to stick together. And Nathan and Marie join with Pastor Haskell's group. Pastor Haskell's group is going to leave for Springfield the next day with a congregation of over 300 people. And basically, gang members are taking over the whole neighborhood, killing people and lighting things on fire. And the fires are spreading. So good on you, Pastor Haskell, for reading the room, getting your conversation, and say, we are getting the hell out of here. The pastor introduces Nathan and Marie to the group, and Nathan is pleased with the innovation he sees, such as people making craft-like contraptions with plywood and bicycle tires. What? So set aside the whole driving in a car issue. Let's just pretend that never happened. It's the 20th century, not 100 AD. People don't have rolling luggage carts, apparently, wheelbarrows, and at the very least, there are no stores around with shopping carts in their parking lots. This just feels a little ridiculous, to be honest. But don't you worry, the church has fireworks to put on a show since it's the 4th of July. I was wondering if the Mormons celebrated the 4th of July and found this article, which basically boils down to Mormonism was founded in America, Mormons are patriotic, and so, phew, thank God somebody brought the fireworks. So we then return to Garrett, who is fishing in Santa Monica and trying to figure out how to find a way to get back to Utah to find his daughter, Denise, who he hopes is with Nathan. Everyone is eating shark for dinner when someone named Lane says a bad storm is coming in and the group needs to shelter further inland. Okay, get ready. Here's Lane's backstory. He owns a shortwave radio. You're welcome. So a lot of people don't want to leave their homes, but about 40 of the people from the group hike until they find a large one-story brick home. So everyone settles down for the night until a giant hailstorm wakes everyone up. Lane and Garrett are discussing what to do when, all of a sudden, a large tree limb bursts through the window and basically smashed Lane to death. No. Lane had the shortwave radio. How will we ever survive without him? Garrett moved the branch off Lane and stayed next to Lane all night. In the morning, Garrett saw that smaller pieces of the branch had pierced Lane's neck. He covered Lane's body with a blanket and went outside, where everything was basically annihilated. He grabbed a backpack full of food and set off to find his children. Meanwhile, Aaron Shaw had received a call from his supervisor telling him to stay home due to the storm warnings. Aaron and Carol turned on the news to see the hurricane. Apparently it's more than 1,000 miles wide. It traveled from Washington to Oregon to Southern California and was now in Las Vegas. It was even starting to affect Arizona. So Carol, Aaron, and Denise put away anything loose outside, parked their cars in the garage, although I'm not sure why, as it seems pretty apparent in this story that nobody remembers how to drive a car anymore, or that they even exist, and pray that the storm will spare their home. Fortunately, Carol was able to appease the mighty sky god, and except for losing power, the Shaws made it safely through the storm. Nathan and Marie have now made it to Springfield, Illinois. They are staying with the congregation at a Baptist camp and eating bunnies that were originally for the summer youth program. I would be dead in a week. I'm not going to lie. I'm not eating Thumper. Besides, I have read in several survival guides that eating rabbits while lost in the woods is a terrible idea. Rabbit meat is so lean that if you eat it without any other animal fats, it can cause you to develop fat hunger or rabbit starvation. In about a week, this causes diarrhea, headaches, and overall lethargia. However, there is some debate about this if the rabbits are wild rabbits. Wild rabbits are fattened up. Whatever the case, I'm still not eating Thumper. So Pastor Haskell is razzing Nathan about not getting married to Marie yet, but Nathan wants to wait until they are united with their families. And given the stance most organized religion takes on birth control, I agree with Nathan. This would be the worst time for Marie to get pregnant. Pastor Haskell, I need you to simmer down now. So later that evening, people in the congregation come down with the black flu. Nathan finds out that Marie had been around the family and takes her to see the camp nurse. She babysits some of the kids. An hour later, Marie and 20 people are moved to a quarantine area. Marie asks Nathan to pray for her, and he tells her they have come too far to end this way. Marie says, "Maybe I'm ready to meet my maker, though." Uh-oh, Nathan. Looks like Marie has a more important man in her life than you, boo. The big storm sweeping through the United States heads toward the congregation, and Nathan spends the next 24 hours battening down the hatches and making sure people are safe before he can go check in on Marie. When he finally can go see her, she has all the signs of the black flu. Pastor Haskell had told Nathan not to go into her room because Marie was contagious, and Pastor Haskell is also contagious because he's been comforting the sick. But, if Nathan doesn't go to Marie, who else is he going to boss around and guilt trip over their life choices? I mean, this is a live or die situation. He got to pull that girl back from the brink of death. So Nathan sees that Marie is almost dead when a voice, the spirit, tells him to use his priesthood to save Marie. So Nathan lays hands on Marie and says, "Marie Shaw, in the name of Jesus Christ, be healed. Be healed." So Marie is healed completely. The spirit tells him to bless all the other sick people as the Lord wants them healed as well. The spirit then tells Nathan that both he and Marie have to leave, so they are loaded up with provisions and a map of Illinois so they can go to Nuavu. Aaron is still working as a double agent and is told with other employees to report to the conference room for an address from the president. Basically, the president invited UN forces to America as peacekeepers, and the peacekeepers instituted martial law. I'm actually upset that Aaron doesn't seem to understand what's happening here. Meanwhile, Garrett Foster is meandering through Long Beach, California when he is stopped by UN peacekeepers for questioning. He is taken to a pavilion where people are sorted out into two groups, with people like strippers and those with mental disorders sent one way, and people like him, soldiers with past experience, are sent another way. He soon learns he's going to join the UN soldiers and live in a bunker. Aaron and Carol Shaw decide that Carol and his niece need to escape to one of the camps that the Saints are in. They decide it has to look like Carol and Denise died. So, Carol takes Denise to Target for a dress she wants. On the way back to the car, tells Denise they are cutting out their trackers and hiking to the mountains to be with the Saints. Denise is all, "Oakley dokley, let's just cut stuff out of our hands." And they leave their trackers in the car. 1 block away, Carol pushes a button and blows up the car. 30 minutes later, police show up to Aaron's house and tell him that Carol and Denise are dead and leave. Yeah, seems totally plausible and realistic since they only found trackers and no body parts. But, you know, I just watch Forensic Files. So Marie and Nathan finally get smart and find an abandoned Chevy Nova with keys under the floor mat and are able to drive at least 90 miles before the car runs out of gas. They hike a while longer and finally reach Nuevo, which has a Mormon temple. Nathan gives the secret password. They each get a separate room for the night. They're good girls and boys. Meanwhile, Garrett is happily gathering up survivors with the UN team. What he doesn't know is that people are being separated, forcibly marched to other destinations for further evaluation. Garrett asks for a favor and finds out his wife is dead, but that Denise is a fugitive. Because she cut off her chip, he starts making plans to get to Utah. Aaron is driving to work the next day, and there appears to be a massive earthquake. I'm just going to break it as gently as I can. Whitney did not survive the car crash. Who's Whitney? It doesn't matter. She's dead. Aaron hiked on foot to his building, but all the employees were told they weren't getting in. Suddenly, the Holy Spirit told Aaron to leave, so he does and was able to escape while cutting his chip out. Carol and Denise are walking the open highway when another earthquake starts. The road starts crumbling, and all of a sudden, water starts pouring out from everywhere. The Jordanelle Reservoir dam burst. With nowhere to go, it was time to pray. Aaron walks through his neighborhood and town, and suddenly sinkholes start appearing everywhere. Even the prison is gone. I guess that's one way to get early parole. He meets up with Dale, who has rescue equipment, so they can rescue people when needed. Both men need to go to the temple square, so they ride together. Finally, someone in this book remembers they have a car. It's a miracle! But first they stop by Karen's house, which is Aaron's sister. Inexplicably, Kathy's daughter is trapped in the basement and she's running out of room to breathe. Was this an accident? I have so many questions. Fortunately, Dale uses the power of Christ to compel the water to leave, and everyone's okay. So finally, by chapter 19, Garrett gets upset for helping the UN determine the fate of his fellow Americans. Some of them will be used as slaves to help rebuild society. The UN learns of the flooding, and since Garrett knows the area, Garrett is assigned as a battalion leader by the UN commander, Kloppen, who is Russian. Anyone else getting some Red Dawn vibes from this story? No, just me? Okay. So Commander Kloppen calls Garrett into his office and says, unlike most Americans, he's cooperative and happy to rebuild society. Then Garrett is asked a question. Who is he rebuilding America for? He is told America no longer exists and a coalition will be running things from now on. Garrett doesn't want to be shot, so he says he will join them. Then he had to take the oath of the coalitions. Secrecy and commitment. Since the book didn't provide the oath, I'm going to guess it sounded something like this. Eeny, weeny, chilly, beanie. Go coalition. But good news, everyone. Maintenance missionaries can now get married. Why? Because the book is boring as hell, and we need to keep the plot moving. The Spirit even told President Golding that it was time for Nathan and Marie to get married. Who is President Golding? Sorry, I can't keep track of all the random characters who come in for one scene and are never heard from again. I'm just not that good. Only one hitch. Marie has to complete an endowment Marie went with President Golding to go through the interview questions. Tithing comes up and Marie is like, bitch, I haven't worked since the Black Flu started. Don't get me started on tithing. So he's like, oh, Marie, you're so sassy. All right, you get a pass this time. So they get married and President Golding gives Nathan a hug from his dead mother, Helen. Can anyone else say attention whore? I don't even feel like dead mom Helen was there. What's wrong with President Golding? The next day after the wedding, the maintenance missionaries were called back to work. Attention all maintenance missionaries. This is a call for all maintenance missionaries to return to Salt Lake to assist in recovery efforts following the recent earthquake. If you are aware of a maintenance missionary in your area, instruct him to report to Elder Wilford Miller at the Bishop's Central Storehouse in Salt Lake as soon as possible. Temple presidents and camp leaders are authorized to allow the missionary to TBV if applicable due to special circumstances. TBV apparently means travel by vehicle. Carol and Denise are still pushing forward, joined the Wallsburg camp. Nathan and Marie are also heading to the Wallsburg camp. Nathan and Marie find Carol and say they were married. Happiness ensues. Garrett's loyalties are being questioned, so he says he is devoted to the coalition. As a test, he will lead the coalition to Salt Lake to destroy the Mormons who will not go along with this new America. Soon, riots break out and WW3 is on the horizon. What will happen next? I don't know. This book was brutal. I wanted to cry so many times while reading it. It was that bad. We'll see if I can get to number 3. As always, thank you for your patience. I will see you in the next book review. Hope everyone's staying safe.